Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant All Souls Day and Election Day to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields, 7 minutes after the hour. Gary Austin, lots to talk about today and lots to determine today. The midterm elections are finally here. Good morning.
Well, hi, MPS. Yes, at long last, the day we've been waiting for.
This year's critical midterm elections are today. Let's talk nationally first. Most experts are predicting heavy losses for Democrats, a Republican takeover of the House of Representatives in Washington. Less likely, the GOP is going to get control of the United States Senate. And in 37 states, including ours, there are gubernatorial elections. The campaigning has gone down to the last minute. Verge Bernero and Rick Snyder, both candidates spent yesterday making last-ditch efforts to encourage voters who might still be undecided. Snyder visited East Lansing. Verge Bernero was in Ypsilanti. And then I guess he wrapped it all up here, Verge Bernero did, in the Lansing area at the Gone Wired Cafe. It was a symbolic end to his campaign back here in the city of Lansing. And he was with Brenda Lawrence, the Southfield mayor, who is his running mate. And she said, I know we're talking to the choir, but you've got to sing a little louder. When you vote tomorrow, bring somebody with you. And Bernero apparently said, when I asked Brenda to be my running mate, I didn't just ask if she was ready to fight. I asked if she was ready to fight like hell. And so down to the end, these two candidates are going. Verge Bernero and Rick Snyder. Jocelyn Benson, too, campaigning yesterday all across the state, the Democrat running for Secretary of State. She's been trailing in the polls, but now some of the pundits are saying she might be within range of an upset. Some polls have her anywhere from 18 to 8 points behind, and so we'll keep our eye on the race for Secretary of State. Ruth Johnson is the Republican running in that race, and we're going to have coverage tonight on the radio from 8 until 10, brought to you by the Michigan Education Association and Martin Waymeyer Advocacy. In addition to choosing a new governor and deciding who goes to Lansing and who goes to Washington, D.C., we're going to decide tonight in the ballot proposal whether to have a constitutional convention next year. That would be total revision, Gary, as you know, of the state constitution. That will be on your ballot today, too. There's also a ballot proposal having to do with allowing felons to run for office. Meanwhile, Governor Granholm looks like she's going out of the country tomorrow on a trade mission to South Korea. That will be her last trade mission of her term, the second term now as governor. Terry Lynn Land, the Secretary of State, will be with us later. Gary, what will she tell us about turnout for today's election? What's predicted?
52%, MPS. That's what the Secretary of State is telling us. She gauges this by tracking absentee voter material that comes in, also comparing past elections and throwing a bunch of stuff into the mix. She figures on 52%, and as we know, she has the uncanny ability to be so darn close every time. I still don't know how she's able to get so close, but 52%, so that's it. I mean, some would think, based on how much is at stake in this election and so much chatter and so much talk about this important midterm election, more would show up. But I guess on balance, 52% in this day and age may not be all that bad, some say. Who knows?
The polls are open from 7 in the morning till 8 o'clock tonight. And what will turnout be like in the 7th Congressional District? That is the Jackson, Battle Creek, and parts of Lansing's western suburbs there. National attention this race is getting because it's so close between the Democrat Congressman Mark Schauer and his challenger, the former Congressman Tim Walberg. Very, very close in that race. And that one might not even be settled tonight. We may have to wait a while to figure out exactly what's going to happen there. Michigan Republicans across the board are hoping to score a hat trick in the election. They want control of the governor's office, a larger majority in the state Senate, and control of the state House. Could it happen? Election day, as you know, is here, and there is a lot of excitement and some nervousness, too, because the state workers are worried that if Rick Snyder gets elected, one of the first actions he's going to call for is a 5% pay cut, and that would be across the board. And some of the leadership positions are starting to crystallize a little bit, too. Representative James Bolger of Marshall will lead the House Republican caucus after his lone competitor, Paul Opsimer, who was here yesterday, dropped out of the race and endorsed Mr. Bolger. This is, of course, presuming that they're all going to be here. The first congressional district, the three-ring circus is what they're calling it now, between independent Glenn Wilson and Dan Banashek, the doctor from Crystal Falls, and Gary McDowell, the Democrat state representative, is all of the Upper Peninsula. It's the Stupak district, and that, too, is getting national attention tonight because the race is very, very close. Let me ask you, Gary Austin, to give us your take on this. We have some polling data here from Epic MRA. This is about the Pure Michigan funding and the film tax credits, okay? What percentage of people in the state of Michigan do you think support the film tax credits?
Well, quite a bit, MPS. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 out of 10.
Yeah, 58% support the film tax credits. And there's big support, 3/4 to 1 for the Pure Michigan campaign. And so these are challenges, too, because Rick Snyder has criticized the film incentives. And there are some people who aren't so nuts about the Pure Michigan campaign, but a clear majority of voters backing Pure Michigan's ads and the film tax credits, according to Epic MRA.
So, MPS, those percentages again, first of all, film tax credit?
Film tax credit to Epic MRA has as 58%.
And then the Pure Michigan?
3/4, so 75%.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I knew it was above 7 out of 10
Yeah.
for the Pure Michigan campaign. And whether or not, MPS, that sends a message to our state legislature that they've got to move on this. I mean, they're really pushing the deadline.
Which way are they going to move is the
Yeah,
question,
I
though.
know. It's a big question. You know, talk about Rick Snyder, and, as we talk about, the concern that some who work in state government have as to what their plight may be. When Rick Snyder comes in and does a lot of cutting, you just don't know how this is going to shake out. But you got to figure Rick Snyder's a businessman, and it's going to be real curious to see if he is elected, if he is our next governor, how effective he will be in running state government like a business. Now, this sort of thing, and I've been covering state government here since 1990, and I've never heard any kind of chatter at all, anything this close to running state government, other than running it like state government. So this is going to be a real change of course if Rick Snyder does win today.
Well, there's a former legislator quoted as saying that you should run government like a business ignores the fact that government is not a business. Businesses are generally more nimble. Governments are deliberative and just don't move that quickly. They say if Rick Snyder's elected, he's going to face an enormous learning curve, and he's going to be frustrated at a lot of the things he can't do as governor that he could do as CEO. For example, the state and federal laws place restrictions on how certain revenues are used. That prevents people from moving money around the way they could in a corporation. There's not a lot of opportunity for long-range planning because the crisis of the day sucks up a lot of your time and energy. And there's a separation of powers, too. So the running state government like a business CEO just doesn't work because of the constitutional checks and balances.
Wow, those are very good observations, MPS. But I will say this, despite all that, Rick Snyder's going to try.
Whatever
if he is
happens
elected.
tonight, too, don't forget he's got a rookie board of directors, the Michigan legislature, the 38-member Senate. 38-member Senate's going to have 29 new members, the senior most of which will be under the age of 40 with fewer than 10 years of legislative experience.
Yep, 148 state lawmakers face voters, 38 in the state Senate, 110 in the House. You're right, MPS. That is quite a shakeup. But, as we look at the overall landscape here, there's a lot of voter anxiety out there in general. And Republicans really do think they've got a great shot at regaining control of the U.S. House and the Senate in these elections. Republicans now, this is nationally, in Congress, they need to pick up 39 seats to take control of the House and 10 seats to grab control of the Senate. And polling data shows in both cases, in both of those chambers, this is entirely possible today.
We shall see. There are some other things going on, too. There was a driver on a cell phone in Wyoming yesterday that caused a serious crash on Clyde Park Avenue. A 21-year-old was reportedly doing 15 miles an hour and talking on the phone while going southbound. When he noticed an irritated look from a female driver, he sped up to cut her off, ended up clipping her vehicle, lost control, rolled his truck several times. And this is another example of why you got to just please pay attention
Oh,
when you're
absolutely.
driving
All
for
set.
the sake of all of us. And a group of Michigan Army National Guard soldiers are going to Afghanistan. 144 members of the Gladstone-based engineer company are leaving tomorrow for Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, and then on for Afghanistan for a 12-month tour of duty. Our prayers go with them.
Yes.
Go-
Hey, MPS, I got to tell you here, I mean, this may come as sad news because I know you're a frequent visitor to the Detroit area and the many terrific eating establishments and a
What's
trip to
closing?
Detroit.
What's closing?
Oh, no, hang on to your appetite. A trip to Detroit would not have been complete without a stop to Carl's Chop House. In the 1960s, in its heyday, listen to this, Carl's served as many as 3,000 a day. Carl's Chop House, in business for 75 years. It closed a few years ago. Now they're in the process of tearing it down.
Tearing it down. I always
Carl's
thought maybe
Chop
it would reopen because that's right near the Motor City Casino, and that's where the new hockey arena was going to be. Yep, a
We're
lot of
hoping.
famous people hung out there, to be sure. 18 after the hour, more news, politics, and sports. What happened at the World Series yesterday? Stay tuned.
Let's call the whole thing off.
Well, we can't call the whole thing off. We're going to have an election to determine who wins, who loses, who moves forward, who does not, and it starts very shortly this morning. We will have live coverage from the polls in Grand Rapids, East Lansing, and in the Lansing area, and hopefully from you, wherever you are in the state of Michigan this morning. You can ring us at 888-900-9966. We'd like to know if the polls were crowded, how it all went. Did it go smoothly for you? This is something we typically do on Election Day, and it works out very nicely. So wherever you're voting this morning, you don't have to tell us who you voted for, but I'd like to know if the process went smoothly. Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land will be with us a little bit later, too, just to go over some of the do's and don'ts. There are certain things you can do and can't do when it comes to polling places, and we'll talk a little bit about turnout as well. David Waymeyer is back with us on the program right now, a partner in Martin Waymeyer Advocacy Communications. Up early this morning and maybe on his way to the polls. Maybe he voted absentee. Not sure where he is this morning. Good morning.
Morning. How are you doing, Michael Patrick?
Where are you, sir?
I'm actually at home. I just finished feeding the horses, and I'm getting ready to go work out. Then I'm going to go cast my vote.
All
Very
right.
important thing we should all do.
Where's your polling place?
I am out in Benton Township in Eaton County. It's a little township, kind of surrounds Potterville.
You know,
Rural, lots of farmers.
It feels good to. I mean, I don't want to wait in a long line or anything like that, but it does feel good to be part of the process and cast your ballot, doesn't it?
Oh, you bet. You know, it's something as a reporter that I followed for many years and actually did some bellwether polling, figured out some bellwether districts when I was a young reporter in Flint that helped us kind of predict what might happen. And so I've always enjoyed having a chance to talk to people as they leave polls and find out how they're feeling. And out here in Benton Township, we tend to be pretty Republican, I've got to say, and a lot of farmers out there. But the folks that run our election operations are extremely talented. They bring in a lot of great volunteers. They think they pay them a few bucks, but they're not paid a lot, and they get the job done.
There is a sense of a hyperbole that comes with elections when we talk about words like historic, and we say the most important election in Michigan's history, that sort of thing. Where does this stand? What's important about this election? It might not be the most important, but it's important.
Yeah, you know, it really is at a pretty critical time for Michigan. I would argue the last two elections were also, and perhaps we missed a chance to really make some serious changes in our direction. But it's pretty clear to me that the states that are being successful in this country are the states that have really invested in the knowledge economy. And unfortunately, the states that are being less successful, states that are losing population and are losing especially per capita income, are the states that have doubled down on factory life. And Michigan has doubled down on factory life, and that's one of the reasons that we, along with Indiana and Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Mississippi, places like that, are big losers this decade. And the states that have invested in the knowledge economy, states like California and Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, those are the real winners in this decade. And we need to start thinking about, do we want to keep acting like losers? Do we want to moving in the direction of the states that have failed, or do we want to look at the states that are being successful and providing a better standard of living for their people?
You know, when you think about the fact that we have something like 95 to 98% of our potential voters registered in the state of Michigan, but just over 50% will turn out today to vote by prediction of the Secretary of State. That seems a little disheartening considering all the shouting and the money and the investment and the time and the effort the candidates put in, doesn't it?
Well, let's not forget, we make it a little harder to vote in Michigan than a lot of states do. Many states now have same-day voting, same-day registration, excuse me. You can walk in, prove that you're that you live where you have your driver license and vote. A lot of people have early voting where you can walk in anytime in the 2 weeks before the election and vote. And so, we have tended not to want to try to use those types of activities. I don't know whether the new Secretary of State will, regardless of who she is, since it apparently is two women. We'll have a new woman Secretary of State again.
Yeah.
But those are things that would make it easier for people to vote. But there's really not any excuse for anybody to not get out, or very few excuses for people not to do it. We should try to make it easier, I think.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, I shouldn't say this, but I know a lot of people who like to vote absentee just because they can take their time with the ballot, sit down at home, and, they take it seriously. They turn it in.
And technically, what they do is illegal.
Yeah.
Why do we make them illegals? That's just crazy.
It doesn't make any sense. And a lot of them are doing it just because they're not going to be out of town or they don't have the religious reasons or whatever and there's no harm, no foul in that, as long as it isn't somehow abused, I guess. Or
but they become, technically, they could be tossed in jail or at least be cited for at least a misdemeanor. So that's unfortunate. We got to change those laws. But that, again, will be something for our new legislature to look at when they come in January.
Then on one hand, let's say you're a so-called soccer mom today, and you're watching this program right now as you're making your kids' school lunches, and you're going to get them to the bus, and oh, by the way, you have to be to the office at 8, and you're going to be able to leave at 5, and oh, yeah, you're going to have to get them from school, and they have soccer practice or, music lessons or whatever it is they have to catechism or church on All Souls Day maybe, and the next thing you know, it's 8 o'clock. Where in that schedule did you have time to go stand in line?
Well, and to make it even worse, especially in the community that we live in, students are forced to go back to the place where they had their driver's license. Technically.
Yeah.
And we have two young people working in my office that we're giving the morning off so they can drive back to Ann Arbor where their family's residency is and vote rather than them having made their, what should have been an easy thing to do, move their registration to East Lansing. We make it that much harder for those young people to do that and thereby disenfranchise them right at the point where they're starting to get interested in politics.
Oh,
Again,
yeah. And
politics is partly deciding who gets to vote and who doesn't get to vote. And if you make it hard for certain people, that you usually get a result that favors that means that they won't vote. So.
Yeah, and all of a sudden there's a cost involved, a tank of gas or half a tank of gas or whatever it is to drive
for me,
down.
I'm losing two talented employees for half a day, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
That's a minor cost for me, though. They'll be back and work hard tonight, I know.
Well, that's a nice example that you set, and maybe today you'll inspire some people in their offices to let people have a little extra time if they want to go and do that. But we'll look forward to the results. We don't really talk too much about polls today. We don't talk to candidates. We let it rest and let people make their decisions, but we will be talking live to reporters that we have at the polls, and we sure appreciate you being with us so early this morning.
Take care, Michael Patrick. Hope you have a great election day.
I know I see you all over town, and I know I'll see you again soon. That's David Waymeyer. David Waymeyer, very well known for his blonde locks and his very concise way of making his statements. David Waymeyer, Martin Waymeyer Advocacy Communications. Brenda is in Lansing. She's ringing in at 888-900-9966. Good morning, Brenda.
Good morning. I'm glad you brought up the absentee ballot.
Yes?
I voted absentee ballot one time, and it was returned to me. Naturally, it was returned after the voting, date.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's a problem because then when you're on their list and you go there to vote in person, they won't let you vote because you've gotten an absentee ballot, even though you may not have gotten an absentee ballot. So, and then our troops overseas, they were never sent. Not Michigan's good at that, but other states send them when it's too late for them to get their votes back. So, absentee ballots have a long way to go before they stop disenfranchising your vote.
That's a
That's
good
all.
point. That system has to be ironed out, Brenda, doesn't it? Because you're not the first person that I've heard of who said they had their absentee ballot returned to them. Governor Granholm today appointed Delta Airlines lobbyist and former Granholm staffer Dana DeBell to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Board and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Executive Committee. Congratulations to her. She is from Ann Arbor, and she is the Director of State and Local Government Affairs for Delta Airlines. Congratulations to her. Rebecca Humphreys is going to be leaving the Department of Natural Resources, and she told her staff she's stepping down January 1st for an executive position at Ducks Unlimited, that national conservation group. It's 32 minutes after the hour. General Motors plans to sell up to $10 billion in stock at its initial public offering. That would lessen the U.S. government stake in the automaker. That's our stake, by the way. GM's going to offer 365 million shares at $26 to $29, and that is coming up in just a couple of weeks in November. President Barack Obama sent a note to a woman in Monroe called Jennifer Klein. He wrote her a handwritten note promising things will get better. Do you know what she did with that note this weekend? She sold it for $7,000 to an autograph collector to help pay the bills. She said, "This will help us get through the winter. I feel bad, but we had to do this." And so she got a letter from Obama, and she turned it into some hay. The Dow yesterday was up 6 points. The S&P was up 1, and the NASDAQ was down 3. People planning to fly to their Thanksgiving destinations expect packed planes, 18% higher than last year, the airfares, and 3.5% more people will be traveling by air this Thanksgiving. I'm one of them. Beginning early next year, UPS is going to raise its prices about 5%. And the Supreme Court today is going to hear arguments over a federal appeals court decision to toss out California's ban on the sale of violent video games to children. That law was declared unconstitutional last year in San Francisco. So that could have a big impact, too. We'll see what that bellwether does in California. Do you think kids should be barred from buying violent video games? Tonight on the show, Dirty Jobs, Mike Rowe is going to talk about the Great Lakes eel lampreys. And they invaded the Great Lakes in the 20s, and he's going to learn how to wrangle with these destructive sea lampreys on Dirty Jobs tonight. We never let the birthday of a beautiful woman pass without taking note. Stephanie Powers is 68 today. Remember that show, Heart to Heart? Stephanie Powers will be with us on the air live tomorrow, in fact. Happy birthday, darlings, to all of you. We will get you the sports and the World Series. We'll talk more about violent video games, too, as soon as we get back. Larry Sorensen, former Major League pitcher, will tell us what happened yesterday in Texas. And it's Election Day with Michael Patrick Shields. We will be going live to the polling places throughout the morning and expecting your calls, too. Counting on them, in fact, at 888-900-9966. We want to know, was your polling place crowded? How did the election process go? And that sort of thing. You don't have to tell us who you voted for if you don't want to, but we would like to know how it's all going. Pistons are going to try to get their first win of the season tonight. They host the Boston Celtics at the Palace. Detroit has dropped the first 3 games of the year. The search is on for a new manager for the Tigers' AAA affiliate, the Toledo Mud Hens. Larry Parrish is going to join the Braves, and so now they're looking for somebody for the first time since 2003 to head the Mud Hens. Edgar Renteria hit a 3-run homer yesterday, and the Rangers fell to the Giants in Arlington. That means the World Series is over in 5 games. It was the first San Francisco World Series title and the first for the Giants since they were in New York back in 1954. Edgar Renteria was named the World Series MVP, and here's how it all wrapped up.
Now the stretch by Wilson. 3-2 pitch. He struck him out. The high cutter. The ball game is over. And after 56 years, the Giants have won the World Series. For the first time in their history in San Francisco, the Giants are bringing the World Series trophy back to the Bay.
The Giants win the World Series. The Giants win the World Series. And remember, it was Ernie Harwell had the call the last time they did it all those years ago, and he did that call on television, in fact. So there you have it. The World Series is done, and the Texas Rangers go without. They've never won the World Series. That was their first time to the World Series. Peyton Manning threw 2 touchdown passes to lead the Colts yesterday to a 30-17 win over the Texans on Monday Night Football. That game was in Indianapolis, and the Vikings have waived wide receiver Randy Moss after just 3 games. I guess, I don't know why they decided to. It sounds like some off-the-field trouble with Randy Moss, but that kind of thing happens with him. 41 minutes after the hour right now, it is Michael Patrick Shields. It's Election Day, a Pure Michigan Monday right here, and that means it's time to recognize the Pure Michigan effort for all the results it provides right here in Michigan. You often hear about a plan to produce good things in the state of Michigan and positive programs that might affect our state. But Michigan's tourism industry and Pure Michigan is really doing that for our state's economy. Relaxing at a hotel, an afternoon on a golf course, or camping with the family. Outings like these create tourism jobs in every county in Michigan. 142,000 jobs statewide, we understand. Colleges and universities offer degrees in hospitality, hotel, outdoor recreation, and tourism management. So in this sector, even entry-level employees can acquire skills like customer service that'll serve them for a lifetime. Michigan's tourism businesses, and they're entrepreneurial and they're small businesses. That's where the sector grows the most jobs, and these jobs are right here and can and never will be outsourced. More visitors to Michigan means more jobs for Michiganders. So urge your legislators and candidates to encourage them fully and permanently fund Michigan's Pure Michigan campaign to increase tourism and tourism jobs in Michigan. Brought to you by the Michigan Lodging and Tourism Association, the Michigan Snow Sports Industries Association. You can visit GoSkiMichigan.com, and Grand Hotel, proud to be part of Michigan tourism since 1887. Boyne, too, Michigan's resort, entertaining Michigan vacationers for over 60 years. 43 minutes after the hour, we saw in a poll this morning that a large amount, 2 out of every 3 people in Michigan, in fact, support the Pure Michigan campaign. It's Election Day. It's finally here, and it's a Grand Traverse Tuesday, brought to you by Grand Traverse Pie Company. Rachel Chavez is at one of the polls this morning. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Michael.
Where do we find you this morning? It's still dark, and you are already at the polls. Where are you?
Yes, I'm at Heather Hills Retirement Home over on Forest Hills and Cascade Road in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Is there a line of people already waiting, or are they still sitting in their cars? Describe the scene, if you would.
Well, it's really dark, chilly, and the cell phone reception here isn't too good, so I'm waiting in line. I think everyone else is still sane and waiting in their cars, keeping warm. It's not too busy yet, but...
All right, we'll check back with you a little bit later. The polls are going to open in 16 minutes, and then there'll be a mad scramble, it sounds like, Rachel, from people in their warm cars listening to us on the radio right to the door to the polls. So we'll check back with you a little bit later. Rachel Chavez is in the Grand Rapids area this morning. Tom Chatfield is on the other end of our line right now, too. You heard me talking just a minute ago about the idea of the Supreme Court getting involved with selling violent games, video games, to young people. He is a games theorist, arts and books editor at Prospect Magazine, and the author of Fun Incorporated, Why Gaming is Going to Dominate the 21st Century. Good morning. Thanks for being available so early.
Good morning.
What do you think about the idea? Do these violent video games have an effect on kids?
They certainly have an effect on kids, and that's kind of the point of games. They're meant to have an effect on you.
Yeah.
What worries me is, I suppose, the idea that video games, because they're interactive, are uniquely dangerous. I think the research claims are made for it which can't really be backed up, and I worry that this kind of extreme reaction, this kind of ban, it treats games as something they're not, as something dangerous that parents and families should be afraid of and worried about, rather than as something that, like cinema or books, they can learn to engage with and control.
Yeah, I guess a discussion about the violence in the games would be better than just giving them the game and letting them sit in front of the TV for 8 hours a day shooting other people in Call of Duty or whatever it is. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's an overreaction. Let's talk again tomorrow after we know what happens today in the courtroom. Tom Chatfield, the author of Fun Incorporated, Why gaming will dominate the 21st century, and will we ever have online voting is another question, too. It's Michael Patrick Shields on Election Day. Election Day, midterm elections, 2010. The polls will open in 9 minutes. After you vote, we'd love to hear from you about how the process went at 888-900-9966. That's 888-900-9966. We also have people at the polls who will be reporting in, but we'd like you to do that too. Here it is again yesterday, the final out of the Fall Classic.
Now the stretch by Wilson. 3-2 pitch. He struck him out. The high cutter. The ball game is over. And after 56 years, the Giants have won the World Series. For the first time in their history in San Francisco, the Giants are bringing the World Series trophy back to the Bay.
Larry Sorensen pitched for 7 major league teams, pitched in the All-Star game, and was the voice of the Tigers for a while and worked for ESPN. He now lives in Grand Rapids, where he teaches at Diamond Sports Training. And Larry, it took both of those teams a long time to get to the World Series, but it only took 5 games to determine the winner. Good morning.
Well, it's going to be a great day in San Francisco, no question about that. They're going to have a lot of fun today.
I was kind of thinking the appropriate final call of the game would have been, the Giants win the World Series. The Giants win the World Series.
You work that out. You try that a little bit and see how it works.
To try to recall that famous line from, that was the last time the Giants were champions, and that was all the way back, what is it, in the 1950s, and Ernie Harwell had that call.
54, I believe it was.
Yeah, and the other team, the Rangers, having come from Washington, had never been to the World Series before and continued to languish without a world championship.
Well, it was just a great day for the Giants pitching. It's Michael, you and I talk about it every single day, but it was all about pitching again.
Yeah, and you know what? It is kind of appropriate after these playoffs, the wild card and the championship series, that the road team won. I mean, they won the World Series on the road, because until we got to the World Series, there were an awful lot of road victories. And then once the Giants took control at home for the first 3 games of the series, it was sort of a fait accompli at that time, wasn't it?
The Giants just had a magical year. You know, the entire season was a very special season for them, and it seemed like it was almost predestined that they were going to have the victory in the end, and that's the way that it worked out.
Shortstop Edgar Renteria gets the World Series MVP. He's 35 years old.
You never know, do you?
Yeah, so
you
that's...
never know who is going to show up and who is going to be the special guy for one short series.
Yeah, he batted .412 and hit a 3-run homer yesterday. And you don't argue with that call, do you?
No, not at all. He was a great player for a short series, and like I said, you never know who is going to show up, who's going to be special in a real short series, and he was, and he deserved it.
You know, this series was a surprise to a lot of people. I think when you think about the fact that nobody would have thought San Francisco
I still think the
and
Yankees
Texas
were going to be in it, so what
Yeah.
the heck do I know? But
I remember that. And I think you thought, didn't you originally predict the Phillies were going to win it all?
I did.
Yeah.
And that was my call out of spring training, was the Phillies and the Yankees in the World Series. So again, what the heck do I know? But it turned out to be a great series. It was entertaining. I hope people enjoyed it because it was good for baseball.
Well, why do you say that? Because I'll be curious to see what the ratings are like in the middle of the NFL season, obviously. And these were 2 teams that maybe the networks weren't hoping for. Why is it good for baseball?
I think it's good because it provides balance, but I don't think it's going to be good in the ratings. And I think that the ratings were down, as a matter of fact. But, we'll see what the final numbers are. I just think that it's good when we see more teams involved in the championships than just the couple of things that people expect.
Yeah, it's good for every dog to have his day, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the Tigers are close.
I hope so. And then to have the two presidents there yesterday, George Herbert Walker, 2 nights ago, George Herbert Walker Bush and George W. Bush, and it gave the people of Texas something to be very proud of. I guess
that was nice.
Yeah, is it a bummer to win the World Series? I guess you'll take it whenever you can get it, but when you win on the road, it's a little different than winning at home. I mean, ideally, the best thing to do would be to win at home because then they got to get in an airplane and fly to San Francisco, and the party just goes on and on, I bet.
Well, yeah, it's a big party right now, and they don't care where they are at the moment. But you're right. You're right. It is different when you do it on the road because you've got that long flight home, and but they'll still have a good time. I guarantee that.
Well, we've had a good time talking with you again. Our good friend Larry Sorensen in Grand Rapids at Diamond Sports Training, and he pitched for the 7 major league teams and pitched in the All-Star game. And he said it. You heard it. The Tigers are close. We are close to the polls opening. In fact, just 4 minutes away right now, so stay tuned for that. We'll go live to the polls, and we'd love to get your calls, too, after you vote at 888-900-9966. It's Michael Patrick Shields on All Souls Day and on Election Day. We're back right after the news.
Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Election Day to you. Brought to you this morning by Grand Traverse Pie Company. It's a Grand Traverse Tuesday, and our election coverage tonight brought to you, in fact, by the Michigan Education Association and Martin Waymeyer Advocacy Communications. That'll be from 8 till 10 tonight, but the coverage starts now because the polls are open. And we want to hear from you first and foremost at 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. If you've already voted, how did it go? Where did you vote? Was there a long line? What was the process like? You do not have to tell us who you voted for, but we'd like to hear how it went, and we'll do that shortly. First, here is Gary Austin with this morning's news. Good morning.
Well, hi, MPS. Yes, indeed. Election 2010 polls are open right now, and they will be until 8 o'clock tonight. Now, 148 state lawmakers' jobs, they're up for grabs today, 38 in the state Senate and 110 in the House. Many are out because of term limits. 29 of 38 state senators are term limited, along with 34 of the 110 in the state House. Now, many political experts figure with the state of the country's economy, this will be a rough election for Democrats, with unemployment nationwide at over 9% in real numbers. It's closer to 15% since the government no longer counts those who've given up looking, along with a soured national economy that has shown no sign of getting better, and an economic stimulus plan that many said has not been able to get things back on track again. Many voters, especially independents, who supported Democrats, surveys find in the last election, are not anymore breaking away in droves to vote for Republicans this time. Governor Granholm, she's getting set to make a trip to South Korea. Her objective, encourage companies there to invest in Michigan's advanced battery industry. One of the companies she's going to meet with is LG Chem, which now has a big facility in Troy. A 12-month tour of duty awaits more Michigan National Guard troops. Soon about 150 from the Gladstone area will be on their way, training first at Fort McCoy in Wisconsin. Then they leave for overseas, involved in a wide array of assorted building projects. Well, MPS, there you have it. I see we have Republican Party Chair Juan Reiser on the line right now.
We do indeed. Good morning. It's like Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, isn't it, Ambassador Weiser?
Well, it's nice to have it, the day finally arrive.
Here we go now. We're going to pick, first and foremost, I guess, the new governor of the state of Michigan, whether it's going to be Democrat Verge Bernero or Republican Rick Snyder. Each of them want to rethink the Michigan business tax. Each of them say they want to make the state more attractive to businesses, for people to hire more employees. They talk about social issues sort of in the backseat this year. It seems like it's business, politics, jobs, and jobs. Some people have said that over and over, and that, I guess, will be probably the determining factor in what lever people pull tonight, huh?
Well, I think that's really what it's about. It's all about jobs and the economy. It's what the state party has been talking about since the beginning of this cycle. It's what our candidates have been talking about. It's certainly who I think will be our next governor has been talking about right from the beginning.
Are you counting on some sort of Republican tsunami, if not in the nation, but certainly in Michigan today?
Well, I mean, I believe we have the wind at our back, but on the other hand, we better pull up our sails and do our work today. We've got to get our vote out. We can't be overconfident. In the end run, the voters decide this. It's not decided by parties or analysts or pollsters. It's decided by voters.
Do you think that that the Republicans in Michigan have a chance of taking the House of Representatives?
Well, I mean, certainly some of the polling tells us that, and certainly that wind I talked about says that, but a lot of hard work still has to be done today, and I think there's an opportunity for us to sweep things, but on the other hand, again, the voters will tell us at the end of the day whether they think we deserve an opportunity to try to change the future of this state.
There are a lot of people who are happy when the polls close tonight because they won't have to hear, see, or read campaign commercials or rhetoric anymore. Obviously, it's part of the process, but every time around we hear people say, "Boy, I just can't hear this stuff anymore."
Yeah, there was an awful lot of clutter there this weekend, I guess, in between the football games. I think there was more. I think there was a little bit more in campaign stuff going on than there was in football games. Hard to believe, but there was a lot of it.
Well, we will make all the candidates winners, losers, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, whatever party you are, Progressive, Tea Party, whatever, our Northwood University leaders of the day. Northwood University celebrating 50 years of producing leaders, and nobody will really know what it's like until you get your family involved, you get your finances involved, you put your heart and soul into a campaign. You go and speak in front of strangers. You knock on doors. You call in every favor you've ever had, probably, in an attempt to get elected in order to serve the public. And I can't imagine it, and I know it takes a lot. So we really do have to tip our hats to all the candidates, don't you think?
Oh, you're right on the head on that. I mean, these people, I think a lot of the public don't understand that you have not only your job, and there's this complaint about why they don't work enough hours, but you also have to work to campaign to get the job. I mean, it's not just an application process. The application process is months and months long, and all those things you talked about, all those doors knocked on, all those phone calls made, all that travel back and forth for incumbents from Lansing to their home districts, it's an enormous burden on the individuals and their families, and they do it because they care about the future of our state and our country. And I tip my hat to them. I am in awe at some of the efforts that I see from some of these people.
Hey, Ron, MPS and I were talking this morning about some concern if Rick Snyder does win the state's top job, if he wins this race for governor, that he's going to run, or he's going to try to run, at least from the get-go, things from the governor's office more like a business and not like a politician. We can almost expect, even anticipate that. Do you think if he does that, MPS trying to figure out if that would perhaps cause him some problems among some in the state legislature right now? What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, I think everybody has their own style, and CEOs, and that's what Rick is. CEOs establish their own culture, and there will be some cultural changes, and you know, I think both sides will have to learn. I mean, that's the process I went through. I mean, I'm a CEO and a diplomat by background, and all of a sudden I was running a state party, but I ran it more like a business than it's been before, and it took a while before people accepted that.
All right, we wish you luck, and we'll be talking again tonight and tomorrow and through the transition. I'm sure. All the best to you, Ambassador Weiser.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed these morning chats that we've had, and hopefully I'll be having a very happy chat with you not too long from now.
Okay. Thank you very much. The polls are open. We hear that in Caledonia this morning in District 8. There is a big line. People were in line at 7. Some of them are still waiting. Rachel Chavez is in Grand Rapids for us at a poll at it's a retirement home. Isn't that where you are, Rachel?
Yep, I'm at Heather Hills Retirement Home. I grabbed Esther from Forest Hills on her way out. She's been one of the first voters. So how was your voting experience this morning?
It was very good. Everyone was very friendly, and there was no line. I was like the fourth person, so it was great.
All right, there's one example. Thank you very much, Rachel. Things are moving smoothly in the Grand Rapids area. Louise Gradwall is back with us. She covered the primary. She is in East Lansing. Which polling place are you camped at, Louise?
I am at Bircham Hills Retirement Center here in East Lansing. It's actually where I vote myself, so I just voted. I was the 10th person. Very exciting. Saw some of my neighbors voting. There's quite a few people here, actually. They're coming in before work and rushing out, so I think we're going to have a really good turnout.
Apparently, according to the Secretary of State, the busiest times are 7 a.m. until 10 a.m. and then after work tonight. So if you want to avoid lines going to the off-peak times. So did they have, what sort of voting system did they have there? The fill-in with a pen, or was it a lever? What were they using?
Yeah, this is a pen that you connect to arrows.
Mm-hmm.
So
all right.
I had to break it down for my mother before I went in there. So she could do it correctly.
Oh, good. So mothers and daughters voting together. It feels good to be part of the process, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So is there a line right now?
There is not a line. There was this morning right before 7. There's probably about, I feel like 10 people in line.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's pretty smooth sailing in there right now.
Easy peasy, says Louise Gradwell. Jordan McCarlton is in the Lansing area, in the Holt area. I think it is. Jordan, where are you?
That's right. I'm outside the Holt Public Library here in Holt on Aurelius Road. And we've had a pretty steady stream of people here this morning. A few even leaving the heater on in their car while they go in to vote on this chilly morning. But not too busy just at the moment, no line, but there was a line at 7 a.m. when we started.
So it sounds like people got there early, wanted to get it done, and now there's a lull already at 15 minutes after the polls have opened?
A few people streaming in. Mostly looks like business professionals kind of getting in their vote early before they go into work. But yeah, no line just at the moment here at the Holt Public Library.
All right, we'll check back with you from there or another location. Jordan McCarlton is covering the polls for us as well. And we'd like you to ring us and let us know how it went for you this morning. Where did you vote? Was there a line? What was the mood? Was it a simple process? 888-900-9966 is the number to reach us. 888-900-9966 on this Grand Traverse Tuesday, brought to you by Grand Traverse Pie Company. It's Election Day. It's All Souls Day. And we're looking forward to talking with you when we get back at 888-900-9966. Election Day in the state of Michigan, All Souls Day too, and there is polling from Epic MRA that says that 2/3 of Michiganders back the Pure Michigan campaign. That's been cut back, as you know, for a lack of funding, but big majority of people believe in the Pure Michigan campaign. You're hearing the music in the background right now, and they recognize that it's time to appreciate what Pure Michigan has done, the results it's provided right here in Michigan. You hear about programs that might affect our state, but Michigan's tourism industry is being boosted by Pure Michigan, and the economy is being supported in that fact. The Pure Michigan has been judged by the U.S. Travel Association to be the best state tourism promotion campaign in the nation, and Forbes magazine ranks Pure Michigan in the top 10 of all tourism campaigns ever created. And that includes I Love New York and all the rest of those. What really matters, though, is results, and independent research shows that the Pure Michigan campaign stimulated 2 million visits to our state last summer by people from across the country outside of Michigan. Those travelers spent more than $600 million at Michigan businesses, and they paid more than $40 million in Michigan sales tax. That means the campaign more than paid for itself, the Pure Michigan campaign. So keep it running. If you want to urge your legislators to be careful to fully and permanently fund the Pure Michigan campaign, because the proof says it works. Brought to you by the Michigan Lodging and Tourism Association and the Upper Peninsula's Travel and Recreation Association. You can visit uptravel.com if you want to learn more about that. Let's go to the polls now. Sandy is ringing in East Lansing at 888-900-9966. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. I voted at East Lansing at the Park Lake location.
Yep.
I was there about 5 minutes to 7, 4 people in line. And when I left, there wasn't anybody in line. So looks pretty light in East Lansing.
Wow. You would think that would be the longest time. In fact, the Secretary of State says the polls are busiest from 7 a.m. until 10 a.m. and then after work. But you were there with only 4 people, and there was no line when you left, huh?
No line when I left. I was 8 out. There were 4 ahead of me. I had trouble with the pen, so it took me a little bit longer to vote, but there wasn't anybody in line when I left.
All right. You happy with your choices?
I'm thrilled with my choices. I got involved for the first time in politics because I wanted something different, and it was a little bit of a sacrifice, but I'm glad I did it. And I appreciate all the information from your show in the morning. It helped me a lot.
Well, thank you very much. We'll have coverage tonight. If you happen to be in the car away from where you normally get your news and you want to listen in, we'll start from 8 till 10 tonight, and you can see how you did in your rookie campaign, huh?
All right. I'll look forward to hearing you at 8, Michael Patrick. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we'll have the winners and losers tomorrow morning and the governor-elect, whoever he may be. Paula is in Lansing at 888-900-9966. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
Have you already voted this morning?
Oh, yes, I was up. I left the house at 6:15, went and got a cup of coffee at QD, and ran over to the polls.
All right. Where did you vote?
I voted in the Waverly, St. Joe area of Lansing, and that's the middle school, Waverly Middle School East.
Was it crowded when you got there?
When I got there, I was the first one in the parking lot.
Oh,
and when I saw a couple of people get out and go in before it was time, I got out real quick and got in there because I was going to be first in line, but I was second.
You were second in line, and when you left the polling place, was there still a line, or had it
Yes. Yes, there was. There was still a line, and it was actually getting a little bit longer than when I was out there. So instead of falling down, and I saw cars coming in, and some of them were actually leaving their cars running, but they're going to be running a while because they're going to be in there a little bit.
I'm not sure
So out
anybody would
here,
advise
I
it.
think it's going to be a better turnout.
Well, we'll see. I just got a text from Jim Hershiser. He's at Precinct 20 in Meridian Township. He says a very long line there. And Stacy Beeler checks in from the Meyer Corporation in Grand Rapids. She says a very good showing at her polling place. So I suppose it's sporadic. But, Paula, now you can sit back and wait for the returns and see how you did, eh?
That's right. I was number 2 voter in my precinct.
Oh, that's something to be proud of, and thank you very much for telling everybody else about that. Ann Doyle is in the Auburn Hills area at a polling place this morning, as I understand, from Ann Doyle Strategies. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. I'm actually over in West Bloomfield helping a friend of mine and somebody I respect very much, a county commissioner, Marcia Gershenson, who's running. I just got here, and turnout here has been very heavy. And she said it's smoking, but they said very heavy here. And the parking lot is full. I mean, they've got a lot of cars here, and I've been here about 10 minutes and probably seen about 15 people.
Will you vote in your hometown later today, or did you vote absentee?
Oh, no, I will vote in my hometown over in Auburn Hills later today. I did not vote absentee. I like to go to the polls when I can, and so that to me is always fun, just to be live and part of it and see what's going on in your neighborhood.
Yeah, there's something festive about it, I find, too, that's why I like to be there when there are people there. The Secretary of State says it's busiest from 7 in the morning till 10 and then after work, but nevertheless, it's some kind of good feeling that comes from being involved, isn't it?
Oh, there's a very good feeling, and I'm excited about the fact that my son, Kevin, who's 18, he's voting in his first election, and so this is the first time he and I have really had some political conversations that he was interested in.
Huh. Now, there are rules. You say you're helping out a candidate at the polling place there. What are the rules that you've been given in terms of how far you can stand from the door and that sort of stuff?
Well, I'm going to ask Marcia here about the rules because how far do you have to stand away from the... It's 100 feet. It's 100 feet. This is marked. Yeah, that's right. They put a flag out, so it's actually marked at the polling places, how far you have to be away. We think it's about 100 feet, but it's a pretty good distance from the door. So you can greet people in the parking lot, as they're coming along, and you can hand them things. Of course, they can't take anything in there. They can read it before they get in.
There are certain things you can't wear shirts or buttons or anything like that with candidates' names on them. Is that true?
Marcia, can you not wear shirts and buttons and things like that with candidates' names on it because we're holding signs?
You can wear it outside.
You can wear everything outside. That's right. Inside, you cannot. For example, I have been a challenger in the past where you go and work the polls and you have you can check, how many people have voted and that kind of thing. And you cannot wear any kind of campaign buttons or shirts or anything inside the actual building.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can't paint "I love Richard Nixon" on your face or anything like that.
That's right.
Okay.
No, that's exactly right. No. And, many, many, many years ago, they used to call what do they call it? Kind of a palm. It was I can't remember, but something to do with the palm. You know,
Yeah.
it was a palm sheet. I think they called
Oh,
it, and
right.
it was actually, you know, so that people who were illiterate or immigrants and just learning, you know, about voting and things, that they would be given these by the parties, so that when they walked into the voting booth, they could look at their palm and see who they were supposed to vote for.
Oh, I see. So none of that either.
Well, right. They're not inspecting palms that I've ever
You can
seen.
write it
but
down on your hand
no,
so you don't forget.
It comes from, you know, I think it comes, those rules come from that kind of thing that went
Sure.
on in the past, where
I'm
people
sure.
were given lists of who they were supposed to vote for.
Well, and you know, there are still some little towns where electioneering still goes on, I'm sure, and votes are bought and sold. But thank you very much. You sound very excited, and it's always good to talk to Ann Doyle from Ann Doyle Strategies, who's at a polling place this morning. Our number is 888-900-9966. Dave in Dimondale, where are you this morning?
Oh, I'm in Dimondale at Mike's Village Restaurant right after I voted.
Yeah, was there a big line? Where did you vote?
Presbyterian Church right here in Dimondale.
Was there a crowd?
I was the 15th voter, and there was probably 30 people in line when I left.
Oh, all right. That's not bad, I guess. What did your were you happy with your choices?
Was I happy with what?
With your choices.
Yes. My ballot was filled exactly perfectly. Anybody needs help with their ballot, I will happily fill it out for them.
Well, Dave in Dimondale, you can find him if you need his advice right on this radio. Jordan McCarlton, 45 seconds. Where are you now, and how does it look?
Hi, Michael Patrick. I'm actually at Sycamore Elementary in Holt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with Angela, a resident, who just voted. How was your experience in there?
It went relatively easy. People were on the ball, and I actually voted in, I thought, record time.
Terrific. And, how recently did you make up your decision on who to vote for?
Well, I was still listening to the news and reading the reports and listening to the telecommunicators on the phone up until the last minute.
Okay,
Wow.
terrific. Thank you very much this morning.
All right, Jordan, we'll reconnect with you at the polling places. Our number, 888-900-9966. Isaac in Eaton Rapids will be next on Election Day 2010. Isaac in Eaton Rapids is doing that right now on Election Day 2010. Isaac, where are you this morning, and how's it going?
Eaton Rapids, and just got back, buddy.
What was your voting location?
Eaton Rapids at the fire station right here in town.
All right.
Police station there. Real nice people when you walked in, walked out, and that was great, man. I have to tell you, real happy with your show being bipartisan and having the delegates on there. It was just great. You helped a lot with the information I needed to know. Voted for Rick Snyder.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you were able to make your own decision based on what you heard on the program. We had plenty of chances to talk to all of the candidates on both sides of the aisle, and you made your own decision, and you got to go and vote. Was there a line when you got there, or a line when you left?
I'll tell you what, buddy. I got up there. I was the third person through the door.
Oh.
And I ended up forgetting my ID, so I'll tell all your listeners to make sure you bring a photo ID.
Well, that's a very good point. You maneuvered perfectly, and then you got and said, you did one of those. No, ID.
Yeah. I was like, hey, can you hold my spot in line? And the guy says, hey, I got to go to work. He says, no problem, buddy. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, glad it all worked out, and thank you for the nice compliments. We sure appreciate that this morning. That's Isaac in Eaton Rapids who said it was a rather smooth process. Charlie is in Bath this morning. At one time, he said he was going to run for governor. This morning, he voted for somebody else, presumably, or he will later today. Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning. Tea Party Dittos, Michael Patrick.
Did you already?
I did vote in Bath Township, and I was number 10 at a little bit after 7, and there were several people there.
Uh-huh.
And ironically, 3 of the people were there that tried to, vote were told they were in the wrong precinct. I don't know whether they had a precinct change up here or what. But I got a pure Michigan story for you.
Yeah?
This last summer, my son and his new bride decided to get married, and they chose Mackinac Island. And ironically, they called the hotels up there, and the only one that called back was the Island House.
Because they were all full?
Nobody ever called back.
Huh.
And anyway, we bought, she was from California. We ended up bringing almost 150 people to Mackinac Island for the wedding.
Wow.
From 8 states.
Terrific.
And quite a few of them never heard of Mackinac Island. I was, shocked. But people got to do their own promotion. You can't depend on government to do everything for us.
Look at that. You're an ambassador for Michigan. Please tell me it was nice weather on the wedding day.
It was hotter than hell.
Okay, Charlie, congratulations on voting this morning, and thank you very much. Kelly Rossman, the founder of the Rossman Group, we're finally here. We're getting to the end of the commercial season. In fact, we're probably, about 11 hours away from the end of the commercials, and the voting is open. Where will you be today, and what's your plan?
I'm actually down in Detroit today,
Yeah.
so I'm watching all the races online. I'll be back in Lansing late tonight, and I'm thinking we're going to see a Republican tsunami. I could be wrong, Michael Patrick. It has happened. What do you think?
That's what you're feeling in your gut, huh? I don't mean to say that you have a gut. You know what I mean? Because you're the picture of health. But you've reading the tea leaves. I mean, you talk to a lot of people, a lot of candidates, and you think that's what's going to happen tonight, eh?
Well, it certainly looks like it. Now, it would be that would be true for at least Governor, AG, Secretary of State. I do think my friend Colleen McNamara, a Democrat running for re-election as MSU trustee, I believe that she will be victorious. But beyond that, man, I'm not seeing a lot. Now I do expect the potential to retain Mark Schauer, possibly Gary Peters, John Dingell, but I think your congressional seats otherwise are going to go Republican in those open races. Benishek and Justin Amash, Bill Huizenga, et cetera.
Are we fickle voters?
Pardon me?
Wasn't that long ago we had a Democrat tsunami. What are we fickle?
Yes. Yeah. You know what? I think it's this unfortunate, naive / hopeful expectation that government can cure all ills. And so whoever is in when you are doing well will continue to do well. And whoever is in when we're doing poorly will be blamed. And we're not doing so great, Mike. We weren't doing so great 2 years ago, and we saw changes there as well. So, yeah, we're fickle. We think government can fix everything, and you know what? It can't.
Bootstraps is what we're talking about, and we could use a helping hand once in a while, but not be propped up by the dole, if you can help it. Thank you very much, Kelly Rossman in Detroit today, and we'll talk with her tonight during our election coverage from 8 till 10, and then, of course, tomorrow morning with the winners and the losers. Rachel Chavez is at a polling place in Grand Rapids. Is it busy still, Rachel?
Well, I actually changed locations. I'm at the Church's Servant now, my own voting location, over off the East Scott Line. People looks like they're hurrying in and out. It looks like it's going pretty smoothly. People trying to get to work, but I can peek in the windows. It doesn't look like there's a line, but...
No line at the location where Rachel Chavez is in Grand Rapids, but it's going to be sporadic throughout the day. I'm Michael Patrick Shields. More polling results and polling places when we get back on this election day. Jordan McCarlton is at a polling place in Holt, I believe, this morning. We'll find out where he is. He's bouncing around from poll to poll. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. Yeah, I'm still here at Sycamore Elementary. I'm actually here with Nathan, who's a fourth-grade teacher here in the area.
Great.
So how was your experience this morning?
It was very simple. No line, no wait. Went in, voted. That was it.
And are you heading off to work here this morning after that?
I am. Yep. I'm heading right to my school. I teach locally, like you said.
And what was the biggest factor for you in voting this year?
I guess being involved in education's a big deal. Funding is always a mess, and so somebody that could sort of sort that out would be pretty good.
Okay, thanks very much this morning. Appreciate your time. All right.
Jordan, is there a line where you are at Sycamore?
There is not. People are streaming in and out pretty steadily, but they do have a lot of polling stations set up. It has been pretty busy here. A lot of moms and dads dropping their kids off and then heading in to vote, but they've really been getting in and out pretty quickly.
All right, a good arrangement there in Holt. That's Jordan McCarlton. Mark Brewer, the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party. Where are you this morning, and what's your day look like for the rest of the day? Where do you get your results?
Well, I'm at our Detroit headquarters this morning. I'll be here most of the day, Michael Patrick, with the campaign staff and our legal team, monitoring the situation around the state.
I guess I had forgotten about that you will get calls invariably during the day about, abuses of process and mistakes along the way. What can we expect?
Well, unfortunately, we've already seen reports this morning of Republican challengers targeting minorities and student precincts. They do this cycle after cycle, trying to intimidate and harass voters, but we've got our own lawyers and challengers out in the polling places and making sure those voters' rights are protected.
What are the reports saying? What's been happening?
Well, basically, again, you got folks that are out there, looking to challenge people, usually for frivolous or no reasons. You may recall back in 2008, we had Republicans threatening to challenge people because their home's in foreclosure, which is completely illegal to make a challenge on that basis, but it's designed to intimidate and harass and deter people from voting. So we're out there in force all over the state today to make sure that doesn't happen.
So one party party representatives go to a polling place that's expected, for instance, to be strong for the other party and challenge and sit right there and challenge the validity of the votes?
Unfortunately, again, we've seen that. There are very few legitimate bases to challenge a voter, but Republicans do this to try to intimidate, particularly minority voters. It's easy to make frivolous challenges and slow down the whole process. So we keep our eye out for that, as well as the other kinds of problems with machines that break or ballots that are improper. And we've got a team of lawyers here with me in downtown Detroit who help handle those problems on a statewide basis.
When you woke up this morning as the Democratic Party chair in the state of Michigan, what was the first thing that crossed your mind?
Oh, I was eager to get down here and be with the troops. I really enjoy this part of the job. I get out on the street and I go see our poll workers who are working at various precincts. I'm down here with the campaign staff and the lawyers. These are the people that are on the front lines. And it's just great to be with them because they do this as volunteers, Michael Patrick. They come in, they give their time all day, sometimes many days in the course of an election cycle because they believe in the party and its candidates. And it's really inspiring to me. It pumps me up to be with these folks.
Well, we're going to see some people tonight who are going to be very disappointed. We're going to see some people who are elated at being elected or reelected and how they handle themselves in those situations. I don't know. It's got to be heartbreaking in some cases, and it's got to be humbling in other cases. And so we wish them all well one way or another. And I know that we'll be talking to you again later on today and into tomorrow morning. So thank you very much for the effort you put in, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
Mark Brewer, the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party. The points to remember we'll get from Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land, who is term limited and outgoing at this point. But remember, there are two proposals on the ballot, too, not just candidates. One of them is whether it's okay to have a constitutional convention that would rewrite the state's constitution, and the other ballot proposal is whether to amend the state constitution to prohibit someone convicted of felony corruption charges while in elected office from serving in elected office for 20 years. So if you're in office, you commit a felony, you're convicted, you would have a 20-year waiting period, and some people say it's the so-called Kwame Kilpatrick rule. Let us hear the close of last night's World Series one more time as the San Francisco Giants were in Arlington, Texas, taking on the Rangers. Here's how it all wrapped up.
Now the stretch by Wilson. 3-2 pitch. He struck him out. The high cutter. The ball game is over. And after 56 years, the Giants have won the World Series. For the first time in their history in San Francisco, the Giants are bringing the World Series trophy back to the Bay.
And that is the first time that the Texas Rangers were ever in the World Series, too. They were the Washington Senators before they moved to Texas. All right, let's close out this hour with Let's Call the Whole Thing Off, because you've heard the commercials. Today's the last day you're going to hear any more campaigning or bickering or so forth between the campaigns. But instead of calling it off, we're going to have an election today. And some are going to say tomato and some are going to say tomato. Either way about it, we hope you'll vote and stay with us tomorrow morning for the winners and losers, and tonight for election coverage. It's Michael Patrick Shields.
Let's call the whole thing off. Yes, you like potato and I like potato. You like tomato and I like tomato. Potato, potato, tomato,